Good evening, welcome to our final session looking at the Book of Joy, a conversation between the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And we've been looking at the 8 pillars which close the book. The 4 pillars of the mind or the head, the perspective, humility, humour and acceptance, and the 4 pillars of the heart, forgiveness, gratitude, compassion, and our last one, generosity. And generosity and compassion are often seen as very closely tied. We know that if we've thought a lot about a present and we know it's just the right present, and we know that feeling when we give it, we feel that warm glow, we feel that joy in us. So we get something from giving and from our generosity. Archbishop Tutu reminds us that the Bible says that it is in our giving that we will receive. And again, I think sometimes we can see this in a wrong way. We can see that if we give, if we're generous, then God will reward us come Judgment Day. But Douglas Abrams, who pulls this book together, often quotes psychologists and different research, and he notes how many studies have shown that there is an instant health benefit in acts of generosity in our giving. So maybe we can think of, in our giving we will receive just that if we're generous and if we give, we will be rewarded then and there in terms of the feelings that it instills in us. So generosity and compassion are often seen as very closely tied, and if we're compassionate about someone or something, we're often motivated, driven to do something about it, to act in a generous way. But they don't have to be linked together, and sometimes it's just by the very doing that we will find that rewards. It will spill into all these other areas of our joy. So just about every religion has some sort of prescription, some mandate about generosity, about giving. So for Christians, it's about tithing both money, giving a proportion of our income back to the church and to good works, and it's also about giving a proportion of our time and our talents too. So giving is part of just about every major religious beliefs practice. We must give. Desmond Tutu gives a lovely wee description about the idea of generosity, where he talks about the Dead Sea, and the Dead Sea has water coming into it, but it has no outlet. So this lovely clear fresh water comes in, but it's nowhere to go, so it sits in the Dead Sea and it stagnates, and hence the name Dead Sea. Nothing can live there. So we have to have an outlet as well, which is what all religions provide us with. The book starts with a Buddhist idea about a way of life, about joy being a way of life, and they use the idea of the axle on a cart. So if your axle isn't very good, then when you're driving along in your cart, you are going to feel every pothole and every bump in the road. You're going to have a bumpy ride if your axle isn't good. If you have a good axle, then it's going to be a smooth ride, a smooth drive for you. And I think this idea of integrating all these things into all our lives helps us find that smooth ride, that smooth drive, and not feeling every bump and pothole in the road. So we all know lots of wonderful stories about people's generosity and how they have dedicated their life to one cause or another. But again, that dedication needs to be channeled as well. The book, Douglas Abrams sent out an invite to people to send in their questions to the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu, and one of those questions was, how do you remain joyful and positive when there's so much suffering and so much hurt in the world. And Desmond Tutu reminds us that we aren't asked to do everything, we aren't asked to fix everything, we're asked to do our own bit, and we probably will never see the conclusion to that. And if you remember in the Bible, Paul talks about one will sow the seed and one will water the seed, but it will be God who harvests the seed. So we're asked to do our own little bit. Mother Teresa once said there was a lot of people, especially Americans, who would go over to Calcutta and volunteer and help out, which is really good. And then at one point Mother Teresa says to them, do not come to Calcutta, stay at home and find your own Calcuttas, your own places of need around you. So again, it's about looking at what's already here. Desmond Tutu and the Archbishop are people who provide a great sense of peace and serenity, which I think ripples out into lots of other people. And they have what we might call spiritual giving. So the Buddhists talk about three ways of giving. There's material giving, giving money or donations. There's also giving as a freedom from fear, and that might be protecting people, but it also might be counselling or supporting or just being with people in times of great difficulty. And lastly, there's a spiritual giving, which I think both the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu have in bucket loads. But again, I think we can see that in so many of the organisations and groups around us here. That idea of a oasis of peace, that calmness that ripples out, made me immediately think of the Memory Cafe, that little oasis of calmness that only happens because volunteers are willing to give up their time and their talents and their two other spiritual giving gifts. The spiritual giving, they create that oasis of calmness, but also the freedom from fear, that this is a safe place to be. And you can think about that not just in the Memory Cafe, but you can think about it in holiday clubs or Girls Brigade or Boys Brigade or Sanctuary Garden. There's little spaces where it is just safe, and that happens through generosity, through that wonderful spirit of giving. So this is our last pillar of joy, and we have, I suppose, we have two things. We have one, just thinking about ideas of generosity. So as I say, we have material giving. So it's about looking at inequalities and injustices which are all around the world, and we give in a way of trying to counteract that. Giving freedom from fear, it could involve protection or counsel or solace. It's about how we give our time, but also our attention to others. So it's about who needs our presence today, and we can think about how we can give that time, our compassion and our caring. And then we have our spiritual giving, and we don't need to be super holy people to be able to spiritually give. And I know so many people hold others in their prayers, but it's also about giving that wisdom and grace, that teaching, and just being generous with our spirit too. So giving and generosity is such an important part of all religions, and I say it should be the natural outflow of all these other pillars. So we're going to do a joy meditation which brings together the 8 pillars. So again, we're going to think about a problem, or confront a pain, or face a suffering, something in life which is a bit of a challenge, and this will help us smooth a bumpy ride. So let's see if we can sit into this, our last meditation. So again, let's just start by sitting comfortably, feet on the floor. You want to place your hands comfortably on your legs or in your lap, and just again ground yourself, center yourself. Take several long breaths through your nose, and again just let your body relax. I'm going to reflect on each of the pillars, and as we do, notice if your body relaxes more and if your heart feels a little lighter. So just doing those breathing exercises to start with, and allowing ourselves to centre. Now let a problem come to your mind. And as you do, reflect on the situation or the person or the challenge that is causing you pain or suffering. So bring that to mind. Our first pillar, perspective. See yourself and your problem from a wider perspective. Try to step back from yourself and your problem. See yourself and your struggle as if you were watching a movie about your life. And as you watch as if an observer on what is happening, think about this problem from the future, from a year or a decade from now. Recognise that your problem will pass. And as you do, can you see if your problem shrinks as you see it in the wider context of life? The next pillar, humility. So see yourself as one of the 7 billion people on the planet, and see your problem as part of the pain and suffering that so many human beings experience. You can see your problem as part of the unfolding and interdependent drama of life on our planet. And even see yourself from space or from a God's eye perspective. See how deeply connected we are with one another. You and me are part of the flowering of the universe in our particular place and time. Your connection to others makes you much stronger and more capable of solving each of our problems. Let yourself feel love and appreciation for all of those who have contributed to who you are and who support you in your life. Our third pillar is humour. Smile and see if you can chuckle at your problem, at your shortcomings, at your frailties. Try to find the humour in the situation and in your struggle. Even if it's a very grave or serious situation, there is often some humour that can be found. The human drama is often a comedy, and laughter is a saving grace. The ability to laugh allows us to accept life as it is, broken and imperfect, even as we aspire for a better life and a better world. That leads us to the pillar acceptance. Accept that you are struggling and accept that you have human limitations. Remind yourself that these painful realities do happen to us and to those we love, and they happen all around our world. Acknowledge that you cannot know all the factors that have led to this event. Accept that what has happened has already happened, and that there is nothing that you can do to change the past. And remind yourself, in order to make a positive contribution to this situation, I must accept the reality of its existence. And forgiveness. Place your hand on your heart and forgive yourself for any part you have played in creating this problem or this situation. Recognize that you are only human and that you will inevitably fall short of your aspirations. You will hurt and you will be hurt by others. See the shared humanity of any others who are involved in this situation and forgive them for their part and for their human limitations. Gratitude. Think of 3 or more people or things that you are grateful for in this problem or in your life just now. Can you find ways in which your problem is actually contributing to your life and growth? Are there people or things that are supporting you to face this challenge? And compassion. Put your hand on your heart or place the palms of your hands together at your heart. Have compassion for yourself and for how you are struggling. Remember that it takes time to grow and learn. You are not meant to be perfect. Suffering is inevitable. It's part of the fabric of life. There are going to be frustrations in any life. The goal is to use them as something positive. Feel the light of loving kindness shining from your heart throughout your body. Now send that compassion to your loved ones, to anyone you are struggling with, and out to all who are in need of love and compassion. Finally, generosity. Feel the deep generosity that is in your heart. Imagine yourself radiating this generosity of the Spirit to all around you. How can you give your gifts? How can you transform your problem into an opportunity to give to others? When we give joy to others, we experience true joy ourselves. Our last meditation. I hope the axle of your life provides a smooth ride of life and not a bumpy one. Our 8 pillars of joy and our 8 little meditations or practices. It's a lovely book and I strongly recommend it to you, and to spend time with those practices at the end. Thank you once more for joining, and we shall do something different next week. Take care and God bless.